Okay, so first up we have the Old Distillery District in Toronto. So we're gonna place our person here. So, okay, here's the entrance. It's like gated in and everything to show that it's all together. It started out as a distillery district. Well, actually, before that, it was just a grain mill, but they had extra grain, so turned out to make whiskey. And so it consists of over 40 Victorian style buildings. And it's no longer a distillery, but it includes like shops and boutiques, art galleries, jewelry shops, cafes, like really artsy type things. There's like a fancy shoe shop and a fancy sock shop too. So it not only displays old culture but new culture too. There's also like this neat little sign here where you put locks on it, like the gate bridge in Paris. So yeah, it it's very interesting. It started with Guderim and Warts when they started their distillery in 1832, and it eventually became the largest distillery in the British Empire. Then there's also this sculpture here to display the artsy type feeling that they want you to feel when they're here. And it didn't consist of these shops until about 20 years ago when they decided to revamp the district. So here's a cafe here. And so it's not only representative of Canada's industrial past, but of also modernism and um, unique characteristics like that. So that's what I really found charming about this place was that it's old yet new at the same time. So yeah, that's the historic distillery district in Toronto. Okay, next we are in Montreal at the Fur Trade at Lachine National Historic Site right here along the St. Lawrence River. Okay, so now we're in Street View and we are viewing the museum that was originally a stone warehouse for furs being traded. So the fur trade was very important uh, to early Canada because they were experiencing a shortage in Europe. So they would get tons of furs and it would come through the Lachine Canal that and off to Europe. So it really became of importance when the British took over and they created this company called the Northwest Company that dealt mainly in the transportation of furs to Europe. And they hired French Canadians to help transport trading goods and furs, and they were called voyageurs. So here we see a big part of Canadian history with the fur trade because the Northwest Company was one of the biggest fur trading companies of that time. Their biggest competitor was the Hudson Bay Company, even though the Hudson Bay Company had a shorter and less expensive route to England. The Northwest Company was still very successful. And so this history of the fur coming through here really gave importance to this area. It really helped the economy too. So that's the cultural history behind this area, and not this museum. It just represents it because the fur trade is what like opened up this area to other possibilities. But the fur trade was the biggest thing in this area at the time. So here we are along the St. Lawrence River. Okay, so still along the St. Lawrence River Valley, still in Montreal, but to the north, we have the Old Port of Montreal as our next stop. So the fur trade also played a big part in the Old Port of Montreal. Uh, and the whole reason this port was founded was because the Lachine Rapids prevented Paul Chaumet de Maisonneuve from sailing further west in 1642. And so they originally built wooden docks here in the Old Port in 1760, and they opened the Lachine Canal in 1825. And then by 1850, the Port of Montreal could accommodate transoceanic ships as railways began to flourish. So that really increased the traffic coming through this old port. And so this place was just thriving. And then in 1922, this clock tower was erected. That doesn't really stand for much concerning the fur trade, except for is like a big monument that was erected that still stands today, as a symbol of they were thriving. They could build this thing here. And then their business really went downhill in 1959 whenever ocean-going vessels could reach the Great Lakes without stopping here in this port of Montreal. And then eventually by 1970, the Lachine Canal was closed to shipping. And then 1976, they moved it. And then 1977, the Canadian government wants to revamp this area, which I will talk about, like the tourism stuff they have added here too. And then by 2002, the Lachine Canal reopened to pleasure boaters. In 2005, they increased the tourism infrastructure. So if we zoom in here, oh gosh. Okay, so their revamping of tourism infrastructure really included this Ferris wheel and observation deck and zip line here. So that's really the big part of the tourism thing over here. And they really needed to add something to this port because it's just like a ghost town type of situation. And then we have the clock tower over here. And there's like a little beach area right here. It's not really a beach though. It's just sand. It has like a gate here, so you can't really go swimming or anything. But yeah, that's the story of the Port of Montreal and its cultural significance, because the increase of people coming in through the fur trade and then it just ceased, which really hurt the economy, and they really had to work on how they were going to keep Montreal thriving while this port wasn't in operation, because nobody needed to go there anymore. They could just go right through it, which really hurt them. So yeah, that's the old port of Montreal, and now we're going to move to Quebec City. All right, so still along the St. Lawrence River, but farther north, we are in Quebec City, and we're going to be exploring Place Royale. So this place is actually Quebec's first foundation, where Samuel de Champlain opened a fur trading post in 1608, and it was actually the first permanent French settlement in the Americas, and also considered to be the capital of French America is Quebec City. And so this group of buildings around here is considered to be the largest surviving ensemble of 17th and 18th century buildings in North America. But at some point, it actually burned to the ground because they were all wooden, and then they rebuilt it as stone. And that was in 1682. So yeah, it still qualifies as the 17th century thing. And then again in 1759, the buildings were damaged during the Battle of Quebec and rebuilt during the British regime. And yeah, after that, the buildings really declined up until the 1960s and 70s, whenever the Canadian government decided to step in and restore a whole bunch of it. Then over here is Notre Dame des Victoires. It's a old chapel that's church, Catholic church, that still holds mass at 11 a.m. every Sunday for visitors. So that's pretty cool how it's still in use. And so if we go back over here, we can head down here. Another thing that's nearby that can also kind of be considered to be part of Place Royale is Musée de la Civilisation, the Museum of Civilization, which is a couple blocks away. So a lot of people, when they visit this area, they also visit that museum because it's a very popular museum in Quebec. So, yeah, we can just see a lot of culture in these old buildings, and it really reminds me of, yeah, French architecture, British architecture, stuff like that. I feel like the first time when I went on Google Earth at this place, it reminded me of when I was in like London and France, like especially these buildings over here with the wood. Not necessarily stone, but yeah, the wood definitely. You can tell. See, there's souvenir shop right here of Place Royale. There's also a couple coffee shops and stuff like that. So yeah, it's also a neat little shopping district along with being historic. Okay, so see, still in Quebec City, this is where we just were. We're going over here to DeFerrin Terrace. Okay, so here along this terrace you can see Chateau Frontenac, which is very famous for hosting dignitaries from around the world. And it was named in honor of Governor General Dufferin. Okay, so you can also view the St. Lawrence River from here, which is very important to Canadian history. So over on this side of the terrace features this tobogganing thing, which I think should switch. If you get close enough over there, it switches to like wintertime. Like right now, it's in like spring or summer. But if we go over there, can see it. No. Okay, well, on the online version of Google Earth Pro, you can see it in the wintertime, but on the desktop version, it's still in the summer, and people toboggan down this in the wintertime. So it provides a little fun for locals and tourists during the winter. I'm gonna head all the way back over there. Okay, so we're on the complete opposite side of the terrace as the tobogganing thing, and we're at the funicular, which takes you down this hill here. Okay, so now we're towards like the middle of the terrace. The funicular's down there, tobogganing's down there, and we see these like colonial cannons, which also shows people an insight to like a historical context. So yeah, there's a lot of neat aspects to this terrace here, including this Chateau Frontenac, and then we have the St. Lawrence River here. So yeah, that includes my 5 points. A lot of them were along the St. Lawrence River Valley, but that's just because it was very important throughout Canada's history.